The air is heavy, damp, and smells of rust. Imagine walking through a dense forest where the trees close in like silent sentinels. And suddenly, out of the moss and roots, a wall of black concrete rises. A bunker, vast and unyielding, scarred by time. It is not a ruin of fantasy, but a place once alive with voices, orders, and the echo of history's most chilling ambitions. This was Wolfschanze, the Wolf's Lair, Adolf Hitler's hidden headquarters on the Eastern Front. Even today, the silence around these shattered bunkers feels unnatural, as if the earth itself remembers. Built in the Masurian woods of East Prussia, hidden beneath camouflage nets and surrounded by swamps, the Wolf's Lair was designed to be impenetrable. From 1941 onward, thousands of soldiers, secretaries, and guards passed through its corridors. It was more than a military headquarters. It was the beating heart of Nazi command during Operation Barbarossa, where decisions sealing the fate of millions were signed in silence under dim electric light. Visitors who step inside today speak of the same sensations: the suffocating smell of mold, the chill of air trapped underground for decades, and the way sound refuses to behave. Footsteps echo too loudly, whispers travel too far. The Wolf's Lair was a labyrinth of reinforced walls, minefields, and layers of security so dense that even approaching it felt like entering another world. Concrete ceilings several meters thick loomed overhead, strong enough to withstand bombs that could flatten a city block. And yet, it was not the enemy's artillery that scarred this place most deeply, but betrayal from within. It was here, on July 20th, 1944, that a German officer named Klaus von Stauffenberg placed a bomb under a heavy oak table in a desperate attempt to kill Hitler and stop the war. The explosion ripped through the room, hurling bodies and splinters across the bunker. The sound thundered through the compound, followed by screams and chaos. For a brief moment, many believed the war had ended that morning. But the table's thick oak legs deflected much of the blast. Hitler survived, shaken but alive. The attempt failed, and the conspirators were hunted down, executed within days. The air in Wolf's Lair thickened with paranoia. No one trusted anyone anymore. Those ruins still bear scars. Cracked walls, twisted metal, fragments of the blast that almost altered history. The smell of charred wood lingers faintly, mixed with damp moss. Tourists walking through the broken bunkers today often describe a sensation of being watched, as if the whispers of guards and clerks never truly left. It was not only a military base, but also a prison of fear, a world sealed off from reality where Hitler spent over 800 days, rarely stepping into daylight, pacing like a trapped animal in his concrete cage. The Wolf's Lair is more than a ruin. It is a reminder of how close the world came to a different ending, how chance and circumstance decided the fate of millions. Beneath its ruins, legends still circulate, of hidden chambers, undiscovered tunnels, perhaps even archives that never saw the light of day. For in places built on secrecy, secrets do not die easily. They linger, waiting. And the Wolf's Lair is only the beginning. Subscribe if you want to uncover more chilling secrets. They called it Riese, the giant. But standing at the mouth of one of its tunnels, swallowed by the jagged slopes of the Owl Mountains in present-day Poland, the word feels too small. The air seeps out like the breath of a buried beast, cold, stale, tinged with the metallic bite of rust and the faint sweetness of decaying wood. It is a silence not of peace, but of abandonment, a silence that remembers. When you step forward, the crunch of gravel beneath your boots echoes against walls of dripping concrete, and the darkness swallows you whole. During the last desperate years of the Third Reich, when Berlin streets already shook with Allied bombs, Hitler ordered something unimaginable here. A subterranean empire carved into the very bones of the mountains. 7 complexes, linked by tunnels stretching for kilometers, reinforced with concrete thicker than a fortress, and dug with the lives of tens of thousands of slave laborers. Project Riese was supposed to be both bunker and miracle weapon factory, a hidden city underground where the war could be fought from shadows. The scale was staggering. Chambers big enough to house entire factories, galleries wide enough for trucks, tunnels so vast they resembled the veins of some ancient stone colossus. Yet even today, no one knows its true purpose. Officially, it was meant as a secure headquarters for the Führer and his closest circle. But others believe the Nazis envisioned more. A place to test secret weapons, to build machines that could alter the course of history. Walking deeper, the air grows heavier. Your breath comes out in pale clouds, mixing with the must of mold and dust. Drops of water fall from the ceiling, each one echoing like a ticking clock. Imagine the men who dug here. Prisoners of war, camp inmates from Gross Rosen, chained by hunger and exhaustion. They tunneled with bare hands, with picks and drills that roared like tortured engines. They died in the thousands, their bodies never accounted for, their cries swallowed by the stone. The mountains themselves became a graveyard. Local villagers tell stories. At night, when the wind cuts through the trees, they hear faint hammering under the ground or whispers carried through cracks in the rock. Others speak of sealed tunnels where the dead still lie, entombed alongside unfinished walls. When Allied soldiers first entered the region in 1945, they found skeletons still in chains, bent beneath collapsed ceilings, as if frozen mid-swing, forever digging. But it was not just death that haunted Riese. It was secrecy. Even in retreat, the Nazis guarded this place with ferocity. Entire sections were flooded, entrances blown apart with explosives. Documents were burned. Survivors were executed to silence them. What was so important that it had to be buried along with them? Today, explorers wander through the remains. The Osovka complex, with its cathedral-like chambers, the Włodarz tunnels, stretching deep into the mountain. Zechka, with its damp corridors leading to nowhere. They find rusted rails where wagons once carried stone, fragments of machinery coated in mold, walls still blackened by explosives. The sound of dripping water follows them everywhere. Some swear they felt sudden gusts of warm air, as if unseen doors had opened. Others report electrical equipment malfunctioning inside, compasses spinning wildly, flashlights flickering out without warning. Historians argue, was Riese intended as a command center or something darker? Soviet intelligence after the war whispered of experimental laboratories buried in the mountains, where scientists worked on Wunderwaffe, wonder weapons. Some claim Riese was tied to the legend of Die Glock, the bell, a device said to bend gravity itself. No proof has surfaced, but the absence of evidence only fuels the fire. What is undeniable is the sheer incompleteness. For all the effort, Riese was never finished. Vast chambers end abruptly in walls of rough stone. Staircases ascend into nothing. Tunnels narrow and collapse, as if the mountain itself refused to yield. When the Nazis fled, they left behind not a working base, but a labyrinth of unfinished ambition and questions. Standing in the cold silence of one of those tunnels, you can almost feel it. The echo of boots marching, the sting of sweat and dust, the weight of secrets buried too deep to be unearthed. And yet, explorers keep coming back, searching for answers, digging not with shovels, but with curiosity. Because in Riese, every shadow could hide a truth. Every blocked passage could conceal a chamber no one has seen. And every story whispered in the dark points to the same chilling possibility, that beneath these mountains lies something the world was never meant to find. But deep inside those tunnels, something even darker was hidden. Gold does not rot. It does not rust. It does not fade. It waits. And in the final years of the war, when Berlin was burning and the Reich was collapsing, Nazi convoys carried tons of it into the earth, into salt mines, tunnels, and vaults so deep they seemed beyond the reach of time. What they left behind was not only treasure, but riddles written in stone. The Allies called it Operation Safe Haven. They suspected that the Nazis, desperate and cornered, were hiding wealth across Europe, paintings, coins, bars of gold stamped with Reich eagles. And they were right. In 1945, deep in the Austrian mountains near the town of untold, American soldiers forced open the gates of a salt mine. The air inside was bitter, sharp with salt and dust, burning the lungs. What they found stunned them. Stacked along damp corridors were wooden crates, thousands of them. The soldiers pried them open, and inside lay the looted soul of Europe. Michelangelo's Madonna of Bruges, stolen from Belgium. Vermeer's The Astronomer. Masterpieces from private collections, monasteries, and museums across the continent, all sealed away underground. The Nazis had hidden them, fearing Allied bombs would destroy what they themselves had stolen. The soldiers pressed deeper, lamps flickering against salt crystal walls. Then came the gold. Bars stacked like bricks, stamped with swastikas, wrapped in wax paper. Piles of Reichsmarks bundled in rotting twine. The weight of an empire stored in silence beneath a mountain. One officer wrote that walking through those corridors was like stepping into a cathedral of greed, where the only altar was gold. But untold was only one discovery. Across Germany and Austria, mine shafts and caves yielded caches, silver bullion, priceless manuscripts, crates of currency. Some were found by chance, others by interrogation. Yet even as they unearthed these treasures, rumors spread of trains that had never been found, convoys that vanished into the night, trucks that entered tunnels and never emerged. The most enduring mystery is not gold at all, but amber. The amber room of Tsarskoye Selo near St. Petersburg was once called the eighth wonder of the world, a chamber paneled entirely in glowing amber, backed by mirrors and gold leaf, lit so that the walls seemed to burn with captured sunlight. In 1941, when German troops seized Leningrad, the panels were dismantled, packed into crates, and shipped to Königsberg in East Prussia. There they were reassembled in the Castle Museum, a dazzling trophy of conquest. And then, like smoke, they vanished. By 1945, Königsberg was in flames, bombed by the Allies and later seized by the Soviets. Witnesses claimed the panels were seen being loaded onto a ship. Others swore they were hidden in a bunker beneath the castle. Some say they were destroyed in the fire. Others whisper that they were smuggled away, hidden in mines, or sunk in the Baltic Sea. For decades, expeditions have searched forests, lakes, and tunnels across Eastern Europe. Every few years, a rumor surfaces. A fragment of amber, a map marked in German script, a dying confession. But the chamber itself remains lost, its golden glow extinguished, or perhaps still burning in darkness somewhere, waiting to be found. The search for Nazi treasure has never ended. In Poland, legends swirl of the gold train, a locomotive supposedly loaded with crates of bullion and gems, hidden in a sealed tunnel near Wałbrzych. Radar scans in 2015 seem to show a long metallic shape underground. Excavations began, the world held its breath, and yet nothing was found. The earth gave up no train, only more questions. Treasure hunters still descend into abandoned shafts, armed with maps, metal detectors, and hope. They tell of sudden cave-ins, unexplained collapses, even strange interference with their equipment. Some claim that the Nazis left not just traps, but curses to protect their hordes. A Polish miner once swore that his comrade disappeared in a tunnel while searching for gold, swallowed by the earth itself. Others whisper that what lies buried is not meant for human eyes. And yet, the allure is irresistible, because treasure is never just gold or amber. It is the promise of rewriting history, of holding in your hands what dictators and armies once bled for. Every sealed passage might hide a fortune, every rusted door might open into a hall of stolen light. But the question is not only what they hid, it is why. Why such secrecy? Why such desperate effort to conceal not just wealth, but knowledge? For in the final days of the Reich, as treasure trains rolled into the earth, another kind of cargo was being hidden, not paintings or gold, but machines. Because one Nazi project threatened something far more terrifying than stolen treasure. The roar of engines once shook the pine forests of northern Germany. At Peenemünde, on the Baltic coast, fire lit the skies long before dawn, streaks of orange tearing upward like bolts of wrath. This was not a battlefield, but a laboratory, a cradle where the future of war was being forged in secret. Here, under armed guard and walls of silence, the Third Reich poured its last hopes into machines designed to defy imagination. Among them was a weapon that would change warfare forever, the V-2 rocket. Taller than a house, hissing with liquid oxygen, it was the world's first long-range ballistic missile. When launched, it screamed upward faster than sound, leaving only a thunderclap in its wake. London and Antwerp knew its terror. Explosions without warning, death falling faster than the ear could hear. For the Allies, it was proof that Nazi science had leapt ahead, glimpsing a future where cities could be destroyed from hundreds of miles away. But the V-2 was only the beginning. Hidden in hangars and wind tunnels, blueprints whispered of even stranger visions. In the spring of 1945, Allied scouts stumbled upon a sleek, bat-shaped craft, the Horton Ho 229. Its wings curved like a predator's, its body smooth, without the usual tail or fuselage. It was unlike any aircraft of its time, designed by the Horton brothers to slice through the air with minimal resistance. Tests suggested it could fly faster than Allied fighters and higher than most interceptors could reach. Its wooden frame, layered with carbon materials, made it almost invisible to radar. Decades later, engineers would call it the world's first stealth aircraft. Walking into one of those abandoned hangars must have felt like stepping into the future by mistake. The smell of fuel still lingered in the air, sharp and bitter. Fragments of wings leaned against walls, their surfaces unnervingly smooth. Drafting tables were scattered with half-burned schematics, pages filled with equations that seemed less like aviation and more like alchemy. The war had ended too soon for the Horton to fly in numbers, but its ghost would live on, inspiring the jet age that followed. And then there was the question of the atom. In a quiet town called Haigerloch, south of Stuttgart, Allied investigators pushed open the doors of a cave church. Inside, beneath arches that had once heard hymns, they found barrels of heavy water, stacks of uranium cubes, and a makeshift nuclear reactor suspended by chains. The Nazis had been closer than anyone realized to splitting the atom. It was crude, unfinished, but terrifying. If given months more, could they have built a bomb? The thought chilled even the men who discovered it. The cave smelled of damp limestone, but also of ozone, as if the very air had been charged with dangerous potential. These fragments, the rockets, the stealth wings, the reactor, were pieces of a larger puzzle. A Reich on the brink, gambling everything on weapons that could buy more time, perhaps even turn defeat into victory. Some of these inventions were real, tangible, seized by the Allies and later woven into the fabric of the Cold War. Operation Paperclip spirited scientists like Wernher von Braun across the Atlantic, where they would build the rockets that carried man to the moon. But others remain wrapped in shadow. There were rumors whispered among the prisoners and even some officers. Experiments in underground labs, machines that glowed violet, engines that pulsed with energy no one could explain. Some spoke of fields that bent compasses, of time feeling strange inside certain chambers. Soviet records, still classified, hinted that their troops found anomalous devices in Silesia, sealed away before Western eyes could see. Most historians dismiss these as myths, born from fear and defeat. But myths often begin with a seed of truth. For if the V2 was real, and the Horten was real, and the reactor was real, what else might have been? In the dying days of the Reich, with cities collapsing and armies retreating, the Nazis still devoted resources to one last project. It was said to be hidden in the Owl Mountains, near the tunnels of Riese. Witnesses described it in whispers. A bell-shaped machine, massive, chained in concrete vaults, humming with deadly energy. Scientists called it Die Glock, the bell. And according to legend, it was not a weapon of today, but of tomorrow. It was not a bomb, not a plane, not a rocket. Witnesses said it was a shape, smooth, metallic, bell-like, chained in place inside an underground vault. When powered, it glowed with a pale, violet light. They called it Die Glock, the bell. And if the rumors are true, it was the most terrifying of all Nazi projects. The bell is wrapped in layers of testimony, fragments, and silence. Some say it stood 4 meters high, 2.5 meters wide, its surface covered in strange symbols resembling runes. Others describe 2 massive counter-rotating cylinders inside, filled with a mercury-like substance that glowed faintly blue. When activated, the bell emitted a humming sound, rising until it felt like the air itself vibrated. Plants near the test site reportedly turned to ash. Animals placed nearby bled from their eyes and died within minutes. Guards whispered of men who aged decades overnight, their bodies collapsing into themselves. Polish locals still tell stories of strange lights in the night sky near the Owl Mountains during 1944. A dull glow rising above the treetops, a low hum echoing through the valleys. Some even claim that entire test chambers were destroyed, their walls warped and blackened, as if something had bent the stone itself. The Nazis called it Project Kronos, Project Time. Was it an attempt to create an energy weapon? A propulsion system? Or something more unthinkable, an experiment with time and gravity itself? After the war, the trail vanishes. Documents were destroyed, witnesses executed, scientists scattered, yet hints remained. In 1960, a former SS officer named Jakob Sporenberg testified in secret Soviet interrogations that the bell existed, that 5 of the scientists who worked on it died in mysterious accidents, and that the machine was eventually transported away before the Allies arrived. But where? Some believe it was shipped to South America, hidden in the Andes. Others claim it was taken by the Soviets, buried deep in Moscow's secret research institutes. A few whisper that the Americans seized it, its principles feeding into black projects hidden within the deserts of Nevada. What is certain is this: no one has ever found it, and yet the silence around the bell feels heavier than around any other Nazi project. But the bell is not the only mystery buried in the earth. In Poland, hunters still search for the gold train. According to legend, as the Red Army closed in during 1945, a heavily loaded train left Breslau, now Wrocław, carrying crates of gold, jewels, and stolen art. It vanished somewhere near Wałbrzych. Locals swore that the Nazis had hidden it inside a sealed tunnel, reinforced with concrete and explosives. For decades, treasure seekers have dug in the hillsides. In 2015, radar scans revealed a long metallic shape beneath the ground, sparking a frenzy of excavation. The world's media gathered, waiting for history to break open. But when the digging stopped, nothing emerged. The earth kept its secret. Still, the legend refuses to die. Some believe the train lies deeper, encased in rock. Others whisper that it was moved long ago, covered by new tunnels, or swallowed by mines now forgotten. And with every failed search, the hunger only grows. Because the idea of a lost Nazi treasure train is more than history. It is myth made flesh, a story that refuses to end. From the wolf's lair to Riese, from the amber room to the bell, the landscape of Europe is still scarred by the shadows of these secrets. The air in those tunnels carries not just the smell of mold and rust, but of unfinished business. Every echo feels like a reminder that the war did not end neatly. It retreated underground, leaving puzzles locked in stone. Standing at the edge of one of those dark entrances today, you feel it. The same cold draft that explorers, soldiers, and looters felt before you. A sense that beneath your feet, history is still alive, restless, waiting to be uncovered. Because some mysteries are not meant to remain buried. Like, comment, and subscribe. Because the darkest mysteries of history are still waiting to be revealed.